Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Todd Stearns Radio Show. A little shenanigans here in the building. Wow, what a weird day. So I was heading to Dallas, Texas, and what a great joy. We met so many of our great listeners in Dallas at the First Baptist Church here. Dr. Robert Jeffress really rolled out the red carpet. And, of course, Dr. Jeffress is the official chaplain of the Todd Stearns Radio Show. And our friends at Barnes & Noble were there. We did the big book signing. And it was a wonderful thing. As I was driving, though, a lot of folks think, oh, Stearns, he takes the private jet. Well, Dylan was using the jet this weekend. And so I had to drive. So I took the Cadillac out. And by the way, you know what I did, Dylan? Rarely have I done this, but the Cadillac was incredibly grateful. I went for the premium blend gasoline, and with just a tap of the gas pedal, I was driving 90 miles an hour.
Your car is very thankful for you.
Very smooth, a smooth ride at that premium. So the caddy can't get used to it. So we're back to normal this
Not
week.
in these times.
No. But let me just say this. Gas prices were cheaper in Arkansas than they were in Tennessee, and they weren't too terribly bad in Texas, to be honest with you. So anyway, I'm driving away from the Memphis area, and I noticed it was getting very dark behind me, and I thought, wow, I hope that storm is not coming my way. No, it was actually heading to Memphis, and it's a pretty serious situation. They had what they call a bow echo and straight line winds. So, Dylan, they said the winds were, 80, 90 miles an hour, and they just slammed into Memphis. And a good chunk of the city is still without power. I know in my neighborhood, none of the traffic lights are working, but I think 140,000 customers, which is almost, I think, 400,000 or 500,000 people without power, and it could be days before the power's turned back. Did you lose power over the weekend?
I didn't lose power. I lost internet.
Oh, that's even worse.
But yeah, some say it's worse. But if you lose power, you also lose internet.
Miss Helen didn't have any. She didn't have any power at all.
She didn't.
Think she
I
camped out of the building.
Here.
Yeah, she camped out of the building. So that's not good.
But we have AC here.
So people were. This is terrible. People were like, Todd, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I had no idea what was going on because I normally, when I'm traveling, I'll listen to a podcast or listen to the radio. I like to listen to other radio stations, around the nation. And so they're like, are you safe? And I'm like, yeah, I'm on the 17th floor of the JW Marriott. We have a beautiful view of the. Meanwhile, all hell's breaking loose in Memphis. It's trees coming down. And the power is out, and people are, it's really bad. And we're also in the middle of a massive heat wave. So it's like a double whammy, and it is so hot here. And in the South, we're just not built for life without air conditioning. That's just who we are. I mean, God forbid the Yankees ever invade again like they did in the 1860s. All they got to do is target the air conditioning, the HVAC people. And that's it. We surrender. We're good, please. We'll do whatever you want.
Well, a lot of people in the South have those necklace fans, so that you get at Disney World. So some of us will be fine.
So I want. Thank you, Dylan.
You're welcome.
By the way, remind me. I've got to tell you the Bucky story. There was some weird stuff going down at Bucky's.
We did get Bucky's merch from Todd.
I'm gonna save that.
Right.
That's the only reason I went. But I got to get to this story first. We've got a lot of news to cover. So anyway, so the storms hit and power is out. Things are crazy here, and there is a guy running for Congress. He's a Democrat, and he looks like he's super skinny guy, and he's got a massive power fro. So you could say he looks like a Pez dispenser or like a black Q-tip. He's got this huge, huge power fro. Can we say that? Is that all?
I have not heard that one before.
Is that allowed?
I'm not sure. I'll look it up.
But it is. He's very skinny. I guess it's a compliment. I would look like a cotton swab if you were doing, kind of like Laurel and Hardy. You can Google that, kids. So anyway, Justin Pearson he's a radical Democrat. The guy's a racist. He's the guy, if you remember, there were some headlines a couple of months back where he got in the face of a white state trooper and called him a mother effing boy. This guy is just a filthy, filthy racist. So anyway, and he's running, he's the nominee for Congress. So this guy is running against a Republican, Brent Taylor, who's a good friend of this program. And this could get pretty interesting because this guy's generating a lot of excitement. And the radical progressives, AOC, the squad, they've all been down here to campaign for this guy. So Justin Pearson comes out and says that, and again, the National Weather Service says what happened over the weekend in Memphis was just like a freak storm. It just popped up out of nowhere. Nobody saw this coming. But State Representative Justin Pearson says the storms intentionally targeted black people and black neighborhoods. And so he posted this thing on social media saying the power was still out because Memphis is a majority black, majority working class city. So here's the deal. Just so you know what's going on here, this guy apparently, he also says that all Republicans are white supremacist and racist. And apparently, I guess he believes God is a racist too. Because God, according to Justin Pearson, God was up in heaven on Saturday, and he was like, all right, which black neighborhood am I going to go after today? Oh, there we go. Orange Mound. Boom. You're gone. No power for you. Thus saith the Lord. So anyway, that's what this guy thinks. Dylan, let me know when we get close to heresy. All right, I'm taking the show to the edge today.
We're getting a little close, but I'll let you know.
Well, ask Ian. His dad's a pastor,
yes,
so Ian would know these things as a PK. So anyway, Justin Pearson believes that God was targeting black neighborhoods. So for the record, and I just want to set the record straight here because, a lot of people in the media, they'll buy into this stuff. Oh, my Lord, the Almighty is a racist. No, the Almighty is not a racist. For the record, the majority black working class city of Memphis, Tennessee, is completely controlled by a majority of black elected leaders, all Democrats. So if this dude's got a problem with the incompetence over at City Hall, he should take it up with his people, the black mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. But by the way, this has nothing to do with any of that. It was just a freak storm. These things happen. And by the way, and this is what really cracks me up, apparently God is colorblind because most of the power is out in the white neighborhoods. That's the kick in the pants here. Why, Lord? What did Germantown do to you? Why? You can't make this stuff up. So all of this was going, and I'm blissfully ignorant of all of this as I'm driving down listening to, I don't know, country music as I'm driving through the cotton fields of Arkansas. But there you have it. So God is not racist, and the white people are, there are no white people elected to office in Memphis. It's a majority black, majority Democrat city. And it just seems to me the only thing worse than a racist is an ignorant racist. And that's what troubles me about Justin Pearson, because this guy was educated at Bowdoin College in Maine, and it cost more to go to Bowdoin College than most people make in a year. So this guy, and he's adopted the whole, back then he had like a closely cropped haircut. He looked like a banker, a Republican banker. And now he looks like he's a member of the Black Panthers. And he talked whiter than I did back in the day. But now he talks like, like he's auditioning for a Medea movie. No, I'm just saying. He's a black Q-tip. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's the latest in Memphis. In all seriousness, so let's pray that, and we understand that folks are coming in from other states to help put power lines are like snapped in half. It's just terrible around here. And a lot of people are suffering. And we want to make sure that everybody gets their power back on. But this has nothing to do with, a lot of times stuff has to do with leadership. This has nothing to do with a leader. This is just a freak storm. And you know what Justin Pearson ought to be doing? He ought to be over at one of the community centers, I don't know, making bologna sandwiches for the people that don't have any power instead of spewing a bunch of racist baloney on social media. All that to say, you people out there, you've got a choice to make on Election Day. Do not screw this up because America doesn't need this guy in Congress. So you got to vote for Brent Taylor there. All right, 901-260-5926. You Memphis folks, let us know how you are doing in your communities. 901-260-5926. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have to tell you about Enes Kanter, who got kicked out, ladies and gentlemen, of a WNBA game. And we're going to explain all of that to you. I will say this, Enes Kanter is the bravest woman I know. This is the Todd Stern Show. All right, this item from New Hope Baptist Church in Memphis. Because of the storms, a lot of churches canceled services yesterday, and it's just incredibly dangerous around Memphis with all of the damage and destruction. The church there, New Hope Baptist Church, posted the following message on social media: "Attention, New Hope Baptist Church family. Due to the continuing hazardous conditions and loss of power, we will not gather for in-person worship this morning. The safety of our church family is important to us, so please remain safe and continue to keep our church and community lifted in prayer." Dylan, I think that's very thoughtful, right? You don't want people, you're the elderly, you don't want them getting out and tripping over a power line.
Yeah.
Bad enough they get electrocuted, but they knock out the power for the rest of the neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah, the good point.
Oh, wait a second, there's more. Oh, there's more. "For those who would like to bring their tithes and offerings to the church, members of our trustees and deacons ministry will be on site to receive them. So it's too dangerous to go to church unless you want to pay your tithe. You may also give electronically on Cash App or via PayPal." I guess a lot of churches are doing the PayPal now. You see, this is what I love about First Baptist Dallas, which is like one of the largest churches in the country. They still have pews and they still have offering plate. They pass that offering plate. And I like that. And it shocked me because I'm sitting there, when you're the guest and you're in a place of prominence, because they roped off a pew for me. I was highfalutin.
Okay.
Highfalutin. So you don't want to be the guy who doesn't give anything, when the offering plate, right? And I think that's why I love the offering plate. It forces you to tithe whether you want to or not, just out of sheer embarrassment.
Sure.
I know that's not biblical, and so please don't call in and say, "Todd, that's not why we're supposed to bring our gifts to the storehouse." No, I get that. I know that. But I'm just saying, let's get real, people. Let's get real. The whole reason they do that is to shame people into giving. So during the prayer, Dylan, I'm like freaking. When I saw the deacons coming forward, it's business time. And I thought, uh-oh. And so fortunately, I had some money in my. But here's the bad thing. I only had like a 50. So I had to put the 50 in the offering plate.
Yes.
Because you can't make change,
no,
right?
Can't. You can't take some out and then break yeah.
I'm sorry, can I make some change here? Anyway, can somebody break a 50? How about you folks in the balcony?
I do appreciate the offering plate, but it is tough nowadays because a lot of people don't use cash. I mean, that's just the reality of how the world's going.
It's true. It's that mark of the beast.
Yeah, it is. The mark of the beast. The credit card.
Or if they just pass the credit card machine like you're, at Applebee's.
You could, yeah.
That would take forever,
a QR code maybe on the screen.
A QR code. So there you go. I hope the Lord blesses my $50. All right, 901-260-5926. I just feel like something very bad is going to happen. We have got to have a prayer service here, and we have got to get our show back on track with the Almighty. This story out of the WNBA. So Enes Kanter, I forgot that he changed his last name to Freedom. I forgot about that. So anyway, Enes Kanter Freedom was at the WNBA game, and this was Sunday's game between the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky. And so he was wearing this T-shirt. They've been having a big problem with the WNBA. They had a big summit to figure out what the W actually stands for in the WNBA. I would suggest woke, but that's just me. So they came away from the summit, and they still can't tell you. They still have no idea what the W actually means. So Enes shows up at the game, and he's wearing a T-shirt that has the actual definition of woman. Woman, noun, adult, human, female. So it just seems to me that he was trying to be helpful and just help the WNBA understand the definition of the WNBA. So a couple of the players just went raging. I mean, those women were completely unhinged, almost like they were having a ladies' day or something, because they were screaming and just completely off their rockers. Did I just get in trouble? Why is everybody laughing in the
Yeah, you're getting in a slight trouble here.
But anyway, you couldn't control these women. And Enes is standing up, and I think he was he had his hands out. My gosh. It's unbelievable. This guy is going to dominate the WNBA. So, he's going to declare, and he wants to be drafted by one of the teams. Who picks? Look, if I were a coach, that guy would already be on the team. I'm just saying.
I kind of want the Fever to do it, to be honest with you.
Oh, that'd be great.
But the coach is a little woke on the Fever. The players are nice. I mean, some of the players are nice.
Yeah.
That would be the biggest thing. Sophie Cunningham and this guy. Come on.
Oh, that's beautiful.
She's just laying them up for the dunks right there. It would be.
And here's the thing. First dunk, I want him to shatter the backboard.
Just
right?
break the whole thing.
Knock out. Actually, like literally as he's running, I'm just on the backs of the women that are splattered
like
on the floor.
Stepping stool up to the, yeah.
So anyway, the WNBA says that only women are eligible to play. That's the rub here. But they can't define what a woman is. So Enes Freedom is calling their bluff here. I just think this is so brilliant. But they kicked the guy out of the arena, and he didn't do anything. He said he was just applauding. So anyway, I love this because he's calling their bluff. And this is really the best way to address the absurdity of the sex and gender radicals, is to literally embrace their absurdity. And I will say this, ladies and gentlemen, and mark my words here, Enes Kanter Freedom is truly one of the bravest women I know. You go, girl. You go, girl. And welcome back, everybody. This is the Todd Starnes Radio Show. So happy to have you with us today. By the way, Sunday, I will be speaking at Franklin Road Baptist Church. That's in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. You can go to the church website, and they'll have all the information there Sunday morning and Sunday night. And we'll be signing copies of The Golden Age, How Trump Saved America. You're going to want to get a copy of this book. And if you're in the Nashville area, we'd love for you to drop by and be a part of the services. We signed a lot of books this past weekend in Dallas, and very excited about how book sales are going. So get yourself a copy. And folks, again, understand the Golden Age is not about prosperity. It's about Christians re-engaging in the culture. And that is the only way we're truly going to be able to make America great again, by getting Americans to pray again, by getting Americans to read their Bibles again, and by getting Americans to get into the Word of God again. So that's how we're going to do it, and I lay out all of that in The Golden Age, How Trump Saved America. You can get a copy at your favorite bookstore, or you can purchase a copy online. Well, a very disturbing story reached my desk this morning, and I knew that we had to talk about it today. This comes from Charlotte, North Carolina, the Charlotte Latin School. And parents there are very, very concerned about images, artwork that has been displayed on the campus that depicts Jesus Christ with his throat cut, with blood running down his shirt, and God is dead across his forehead. Now, I'm not making this up. I want to go to the Patriot Mobile Newsmaker line and welcome to the program that parent, Doug Turpin. Doug, good to have you with us today.
Hey, Todd. Good to be with you. You've caught me on my way down to the State Policy Network national conference here. So sorry for the back here, but pleasure to be on your show.
Doug, let's just jump right into this. So tell us about what happened. And I'm understanding you guys, have children that attend the Charlotte Latin School?
Well, they did. And, I heard what you were saying in the lead up, and Christian parents like us didn't find a comfort level with a picture of Jesus with his throat cut, or a picture of the Bible on fire there that they hung up as artwork. They had a gay sex manual that had graphic cartoon positions to show children how to have gay sex in the young children's section of the library. They had a statue of a woman holding an aborted fetus out there for kids to see. There was just shocking things. And so it was a group of us, primarily Christian parents, that were really concerned about what was going on at the school. And so we got together and tried to have a conversation with the board, and the board said, "Oh, we guarantee there'll be no retaliation. Come and meet with us. Prepare a presentation that's on our website right now, honoraboveall.org. So if you want to see what the full story is afterwards, just check out that website, honoraboveall.org. And so we presented our concerns, and then the headmaster invited me into a meeting that was a setup, and expelled my two children there, which was pretty obviously a cancel culture move, because they didn't want to answer any of our questions. They didn't want to address our concerns. This was a school that was an apolitical classical education school, measured children on merit, taught them Judeo-Christian values, until they had a new headmaster and a new woke board that decided to make them the school that cancels children.
So I want to make sure I understand this. So you have you had an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old at the school. You guys speak up about this, and then your kids get booted out of the school.
Yeah, my son was in a classroom where the teacher, he told me at story time that the teacher was telling him that all Republicans were white supremacists. That basically asked me, "Dad, is there something wrong with me for being white?" And I'm like, wait, what? Why are you asking me that? And he said, well, they said, that, white people have done all these terrible things, and they were making him feel like there was something wrong for the inherent color of his skin. And they told him he couldn't use the bathroom anymore, that he wasn't allowed to drink water. And they had him questioning his identity. He asked me, Dad, am I gay? And I said, "You're 11. Why are you asking me that?" He said, "Well, they said if you like hanging out with boys, that might mean you're gay, and you should really think a lot about that." And so, these kind of things prompted me to reach out to the school after our presentation to the board, after the promise of no retaliation, and said, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you about what my son has told me." So they said, "Oh, we guarantee there'll be no retaliation, there'll be no blowback in an email. Come meet with us." As soon as I get in there, they tell me essentially, "Well, your son's a liar. We know he's a liar because, we trust all our teachers. And by the way, I've got your enrollment agreement here." It starts putting it in my face and saying, "We're expelling your two children from the only school they'd ever known."
And again,
And
this is, and just to be clear, the Charlotte Latin School is widely considered to be one of the top private college preparatory schools in the state of North Carolina. This is a very high profile school we're talking about.
yeah, this happened back in 2001, right after the George Floyd riots. So it was one of the top schools there. And we were very happy with it for 10 years when our kids were going there. They were everything they promised: transparent, honest. They invited feedback. They were apolitical, classical education, Judeo-Christian values, all of that. But it changed with a new liberal board and a new headmaster, Chuck Baldecki.
So,
And they want that. They
so
wanted a woke ideological indoctrination machine.
right, and so Doug, you guys decided to fight back here, and this is again bringing the story up to speed, where we understand the North Carolina Supreme Court has ruled that some of the key claims in your case can now move forward.
Yeah, we started the lawsuit back in 2022, if you can believe it, and ran into a liberal judge that basically said, well, they're a private school. They can do anything they want. Apparently, they can commit fraud and use unfair and deceptive trade practices, misrepresentations, breach contracts. And then there was a Democrat panel on the Court of Appeals, and they essentially just ratified this. It was crazy. You can't do that. You properly state a claim, your claim moves forward. So the North Carolina Supreme Court decided to intervene and hear the case. And they said that's not the standard of review. That's not the way the law works. You are allowed to go ahead and proceed with the lawsuit. You can't just use politically motivated reasoning to kick a lawsuit out because you don't like the parents and what they say.
All right, we've got Doug Turpin joining us on our Patriot Mobile Newsmaker line. He and his wife very concerned about woke ideology at the Charlotte Latin School, filing a lawsuit, and that lawsuit moving forward now. Doug, what is it at the end of the day? What is it that you want the courts to decide here?
Well, we think we're going to be able to prove that they made false representations. They told the parent, they invited us to come in and give them feedback about what our concerns were. They promised there'd be no retaliation. Then they start retaliating against my son. And then when reach out to them about that, they invite me in for a meeting, promising no retaliation in writing, and promptly expel my two children for the fact that we decided to speak up. I mean, that's an unfair and deceptive trade practice. That's fraud. It's breach of contract. You just can't do those kind of things to two young children. So we're trying to set a precedent, not just to protect our children, but to protect all of the children.
Yeah.
Many of the private schools have gone woke, and they want to use that position to indoctrinate children. So if parents ask questions about health, safety issues, you're telling me my son he can't drink water or use the bathroom or these kind of things, and you expel parents just because you ask questions, that's just wrong.
It's unacceptable, and let's hope that the Latin school pays a big price for what they've done here. Doug, at the end of the day, I have to imagine that you guys are just concerned that other parents may be going through these things, very similar things. And again, it doesn't matter if it's a public school, as you point out, this can also happen at a private school.
Yeah, and it actually you have a greater risk because the private school association filed a brief. Essentially, their case was we can go ahead and expel a child for any reason at any time. Well, if we don't like, where you go to work, or we don't like the where you live, we don't like anything about you, we don't like your relatives, we don't like something your employer said, anything for any reason, we can go ahead and expel a child. And that's basically been used and weaponized by left wing schools and to use a woke agenda to make people too afraid to ask questions anymore. They
Wow.
don't want questions about what they're doing because then people might get really upset.
All right, Doug, I want you to keep us updated on the case here. I think this is so important. So many moms and dads out there frustrated. Many of them may not even be aware of what these schools are trying to do to their kids. And so thank you for speaking up. And I know it's not an easy thing to do, but you took the next step, which is taking this school to court. So good luck to you, Doug.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to be on your show.
All right, Doug Turpin, everybody, a parent who objected to a God is dead Jesus display, among other things. They were trying to indoctrinate his children, ladies and gentlemen, and you heard it from him. They were trying to turn his kids gay by, again, how do you do that? This is insane. What did they say? Oh yeah, if you like to hang out with, if boys like to hang out with other boys, that makes them gay. Well, it could mean that they're on a baseball team together or a football team. This is insanity. But again, folks, as I wrote in the Golden Age, if we do not get a handle on these schools, we will lose this republic. This is the engine driving the radical change in our country. And again, it's not just a public school that this is happening at one of the most prestigious private schools in the entire state of North Carolina. And I suspect many of you other folks out there have very similar stories. And God bless the Turpin family for going to the next step here, which is taking the school to court. All right, we've got to take a break. 901-260-5926. That's 901-260-5926. This is the Todd Stern Show. All right, the things I do to keep this staff happy. Dylan, I was as I was driving on Interstate 30 and heading down to Dallas. I'd just come right out of Little Rock, and I was going to go by David's Burgers, which everybody in Arkansas says, Starnes, you got to try David's Burgers. I didn't do that. I decided to pull off to the brand new Buc-ee's right outside of Little Rock. Dylan, there was a traffic jam on the interstate getting off the exit to get to the Buc-ee's, which is the only thing there. That's the only thing at that exit is the brand new Buc-ee's. There must have been over 5,000 people in the Buc-ee's.
I'm not surprised at all right there.
It was like a redneck grocery shopping experience.
Buc-ee's is an experience. I mean, there's so much to do there.
I have never seen. So I'm thinking, I love you guys.
Uh-huh.
I did not love you that much.
That's fair.
So I thought, you know what? There's another Buc-ee's like right outside of Dallas.
Right.
So I thought, you know what? I'll just stop there. But anyway, I didn't stop there, and I forgot, and I thought, okay, I'm going to have to. So on the way back, I stopped at the Little Rock Buc-ee's. I think there were like 2,500 people in there, which made it more manageable.
So you love us 2,500 people.
Yeah, pretty much.
You love us more than that.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. You
But
did get us things, Todd.
I brought you back swag.
We got the beaver nuggets in here in the studio. We got mugs here. Yeah, I mean, you did a good job.
Thank you. I tried, and I did get myself a brisket sandwich.
Good.
Which I did not eat until I got home.
Oh.
You know, those things, and that's the one downside of Buc-ee's is you can't really stay there and eat unless you eat on the hood of your car.
This is true. That would be the one thing that would make it an elite. It's like a restaurant then at that point.
Yeah, we'll put up some picnic tables outside.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
I don't, but it was insane. And the number is just the sheer number. And there is a certain stereotype of an individual that goes to Buc-ee's. And I guess I'm that stereotype.
It's like Disney adults, but for Buc-ee's.
Mm-hmm.
They're wearing the shirts. They have the blankets around them.
So there's this other stop in Texas, and I did have to stop there to get gas. And it's kind of like a redneck version. It's sort of like a wannabe Buc-ee's.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, I mean, the bathrooms are clean, but it's definitely redneck theme, which is where I got you the Texas, what is it? Texas beer soap?
Oh, Texas beer soap. Yeah. Which, is that made of beer?
Apparently so.
And you're supposed to wash yourself with beer?
Well, yes. The only thing I can figure out is so you can wash yourself, but if you get parched during your shower, you can just,
take a bite.
Take a bite of the
Heat it
the
up in
soap.
a microwave if you have one nearby.
Lick it?
Sure.
I don't know what you're supposed to do.
I don't know.
with
It smells good. That's all I know. And then you said it's beer, so I said I don't know if I want to use it.
What does it say on the? I don't have that in front of me. It was what? What does it say?
I don't know. I think we lost it already.
How do you
We'll
lose
find
the beer soap?
We'll smell it somewhere.
Just follow the scent.
It's in the bathroom apparently.
Oh, geez.
So.
Well, that was supposed to be up there with our,
It's a decorative thing.
with the Dr.
Alan.
Fauci bobblehead.
We'll put it up there.
Yeah, we got to do that.
And I'll figure out what the ingredients are.
I love the thing about Buc-ee's. I love is first of all, everybody's always in a good mood. That was the one takeaway is everybody was in a great mood,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and there were some very large people in that. Everybody was happy.
Very large, good moods.
Yes, girth. Yes, there were no gals of girth. There was just girth.
Yeah.
There was gladness of girth.
Yeah, I like that.
But I will say this: try the Texas cheesesteak.
Oh,
It's very good.
I didn't know that they even had one of those.
They had one of those.
Okay.
I just didn't want to stand in the brisket line too terribly long, so I
It's
grabbed.
always the brisket that goes first.
I mean, there was literally they had a queue for the line.
Yeah. No, everything will still be there, and the brisket will be the only thing not there, and people will wait.
I was trying to figure out, okay, was there something more clever that I could have gotten you guys? But I think the beaver nuggets, I didn't get a basket, and that was my big problem. So everything was like
You were holding it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then the mugs were at the checkout line, and I'm like, okay, I've got to get the mugs.
No, the beaver nuggets are like my favorite thing. They're like, I don't understand them.
Are
but
they
they're
like?
so good.
Are they sweet? Are they savory? What's the deal
Have
with
you
the
ever
nugget?
had like Pops cereal, like the yellow?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
that's
the-
like
yeah.
that, but sweeter.
Corn Pops.
Corn Pops.
Not the Joe Biden's gangbanger.
No,
pal.
not quite.
Not corn pop, but corn pops.
Corn Pops
Oh,
with milk.
okay. I was watching an interview with the guy who created Buc-ee's, and he says that's the whole point is to have fun. But he says they will not build Buc-ee's in any states that don't like, that are just problem states. So you folks, I don't know, in New York and California, you will never be able to experience a Buc-ee's. And that's, I feel bad for you. So anyway, great to see all you folks at the Buc-ee's there in Little Rock. Got to take a break. Hour 2 of the big show coming up next. And hello, everybody. Welcome to hour 2 of The Big Show. This is the Todd Stearns Radio Show. ToddStearns.com is our website, and you'll be able to find all sorts of great news and videos and stories, and, of course, access also to our free podcast as well as our free newsletter. Those are some great resources for you. Want to say thank you again to our friends at the First Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas. Dr. Robert Jeffress, the senior pastor there, and had a wonderful book signing and book event yesterday. On this coming Sunday, I'll be at Franklin Road Baptist Church in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I'll be there for the Sunday morning and Sunday evening services, and we look forward to seeing all of you there. And, of course, we want you to get a copy of The Golden Age, How Trump Saved America, available at your local bookstore. Best way to do it, folks, go to Barnes & Noble, type in your location, and they'll tell you if the book is in stock or not. So if it's not, you can order it online, or you can wait until they get a refreshment of books. By the way, this segment of the Todd Stearns Show brought to you by our friends at Newsmax. Millions of Americans agree with President Trump, and they're switching to Newsmax, watching great shows with Carl Higbee, Rob Schmidt-Finnerty. If you're tired of big media, start watching Newsmax. It's free to start. Go to NewsmaxPlus.com for immediate access. You're going to be able to get all of President Trump's most important events live, including some great documentaries as well. And once you start watching Newsmax Plus, well, you're not going to stop. You can try it for free. Go to NewsmaxPlus.com and then download the app. Well, we have been following this disgusting story out of Massachusetts, Duxbury, Massachusetts. Lindsay Clancy, a 36-year-old former nurse, on trial for strangling her 3 young children to death. Little Cora, age 6 years old, Dawson, age 3 years old, and Callan, 8 months old. She admits to doing it, and now, of course, there is a lot of controversy over how this trial should proceed and whether or not she is mentally ill or suffered some sort of a psychotic break, which led to the killings. Well, I want to bring into the conversation our good friend, the Newsmax columnist and great attorney, Wendy Patrick. Wendy, hope you're doing well today.
Oh, yes, Todd. It's always a pleasure to join you.
You know, Wendy, I've been following this case. It generated a lot of calls last week. People are just really infuriated over what this woman did to her children, and also the support. I mean, hundreds of women are outside holding signs, cheering on Lindsay Clancy as if she is the victim here instead of the person on trial.
You know, Todd, it's almost hard to fathom the way this unique showing of public support is on full display. I certainly hope the jurors aren't passing it, because the defense is not, this is a sympathetic case. Everyone agrees it's heartbreaking. You have a mother that was apparently seeking help for some mental health issues that were very serious, but that's not the defense. The defense, as you mentioned, is, was she within the throes of a psychotic break due to postpartum psychosis such that she didn't know what she was doing? She couldn't tell right from wrong. She didn't understand the wrongfulness of her conduct. Todd, I can tell you, I've prosecuted cases where this has been the exact defense. It is hard to prove because the jurors have to believe that she was just absolutely swept away by this severe mental health diagnosis to the point that she didn't know what she was doing. But listen to what the evidence was. She sent her husband out to go pick up takeout food, sent him to go do a pharmacy errand, calculated exactly how long he'd be gone, which gave her unsupervised access to those 3 kids, and then she went ahead and killed all 3 of them. That's the prosecution's case in a nutshell. That's why you keep hearing them say this is about sophistication and planning, and to use the language of the law, premeditation. The defense, of course, keeps talking about mental illness, but they've got to make it fit the definition that would actually be a legal defense that would leave her criminally not liable for her conduct.
There's a good buddy of mine, and he's a prosecutor, and he actually specializes in these child abuse cases, Jonathan Hatami in Los Angeles County. He did an interview with the New York Times. They actually have a story why the Lindsay Clancy case is dividing Americans. And his point is that he's disturbed because people seem more worried about Miss Clancy than the dead children that she admitted to having killed. And what I find fascinating is how the New York Times described his concerns, calling it gnashing of teeth here. What do you make of that?
I have to say, in general, Todd, there's a lot of speculation as to the way this case is playing out. But, no matter what people are reporting in the Times or on national television, it really comes down to the instructions that the judge is going to give. And I always make that distinction because you're right. If we were to simply follow this case in the court of public opinion, we would probably believe the defense is something very different than what it actually is legally. And that's one of the reasons that I have to take everything sort of with a grain of salt and just point out that I really hope the jurors aren't following all of the very interesting leads in the news as much as we are.
I remember, what was it? Gosh, was it 25 years ago or so? Remember the Andrea Yates case where she drowned her 5 kids. And the jury initially found her guilty. She got a new trial, and she was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Again, the idea of mental illness here, do you think this is playing? How do you think this is going to play with the jury?
I think the main way it's going to play with the jury is sympathy, and that is something they cannot consider legally as a defense. One of the trickiest things in cases like this, where nobody is disputing that this woman was asking for help again and again, the pharmacology is not on trial. The doctors are not on trial. The medical health system, the mental health system are not on trial. She's on trial for knowing the wrongfulness of her actions. So the jury has the unenviable, very challenging task of separating and really doing a clinical diagnosis, if you will, of what those jury instructions say the prosecution has to prove and whether or not the actions of Lindsay Clancy are consistent with her knowing what she was doing. So I have to say it's about actions speak louder than words. They can't simply go through the testimony about what she said and how she felt. They have to look and see, well, are her actions that day consistent with somebody that knew what she was doing in killing those 3 kids, or with somebody that had absolutely no grasp on reality, was completely within the throes of a psychotic break when she committed the crime. So they'll look at things like, taking the kids to a doctor's appointment that day, interacting with people, the fact that she told all of her previous physicians that she wasn't hearing voices, all the kinds of things that jurors can look at and say, well, is this evidence consistent with somebody that was or wasn't suffering from some kind of a psychotic break where she didn't know right from wrong? She couldn't be criminally liable for her actions. This has to be one of the most challenging fact patterns for both sides, for the defense and for the prosecution. Remember, I started my career as a defense attorney, because there's a little bit on both sides on almost every element that we're talking about, which is why when people speculate it might result in a hung jury, I can't disagree with that, only because of the legal complexities of separating the heartbreaking realities that came down on both sides of this case from what they actually have to decide back in that deliberation room. I do not envy them. I don't think we pay our jurors enough to engage in this kind of deliberative process.
From Southern California, folks, we're just so delighted to have the great attorney Wendy Patrick with us, also a Newsmax columnist. It's interesting, Wendy, the husband, Patrick Clancy, has divorced his wife, and yet he's out there defending her. He's also suing the clinicians who treated her. And I am wondering, again, setting aside her for just a minute, is there any liability here with the pharmaceutical companies?
Well, it's really difficult in general to assign liability to either pharmaceutical companies or individual doctors without a full-fledged discovery process on both sides, standard of care. It's very complicated. I have, many colleagues that do med mal. My family always said, why didn't you go make the big bucks? You will always been a government lawyer. But those kinds of litigation cases are very complicated because it's hard to prove. It's hard to prove that somebody wasn't doing better on drugs that have helped so many others. It's expected that you would see litigation in a case like this. It's also anticipated that these types of cases have a lot of malpractice insurance because there is a lot of litigation. But that's one of those examples of what this jury shouldn't be considering. Now, Todd, that's easier said than done. We all know that. I don't know if you've been a juror. I think you'd be a great juror, by the way. But people that have actually sat in judgment have told me afterwards they've had to remind themselves every 5 minutes that they can't speculate about all the other fascinating aspects of a case and how somebody might recover from either a misdiagnosis, an incorrect cocktail of medications, or something like this where you have a number of different prescribers. That has to be one of the most complicated cases that this fact pattern actually fits, is where you have different people prescribing different things and nothing seems to be working. That goes right back to the fact that Ms. Clancy really does have a lot of public support, because a lot of people can relate to, really fighting with difficult thoughts and intrusive thoughts and all of the hallmarks of mental health problems. They have to remind themselves the defense is not that she suffered from mental health issues. It's, was she in a psychotic break caused by postpartum psychosis to the extent that it impaired her ability to understand the wrongfulness of her actions when she killed her 3 kids?
Yeah, back to that, I did get summoned for jury duty once, and I showed up and I was wearing my NRA ball cap and said I supported the death penalty, but it was a civil case, so I don't think any of it really applied. But
so you should have gotten picked, and you should have been the foreperson. You would have made.
That's it. That's it. I would be like, I don't know, I would be like Matlock or something on the on the jury. No, this is just, it's a fascinating story. And again, I'm just troubled by the reaction to so many women. And they're saying, the New York Times, I want to read this. Hundreds of women have posted on social media about their own postpartum struggles, including impulses toward harming themselves or their infants, and they've expressed empathy for Ms. Clancy. But here's the big difference. They did not go and kill their children. I think that's a very important distinction there.
It is. And, the other thing when you brought that up that I always think about very carefully is that's why the jurors are admonished they can't consume any other media about the case, because those women were not on the witness stand testifying as experts. The expert witnesses on the stand is the only evidence they're allowed to consider in deciding, does the timeline that Lindsay Clancy followed the day of the incident, not at some other time, but at the day of the murder, the day of the killing, does that timeline fit somebody in the throes of postpartum depression? And to that end, I could do a whole show, Todd, on the battle of the experts there, because remember, you had the prosecution experts that actually knew Lindsay versus the defense expert who didn't. So there's this thinking of, well, not only do these clinicians have expert testimony they can provide, they actually are precipient witnesses to the extent that they were treating physicians. And you have to believe that resonates with the jurors, who no doubt also have their own personal physicians, maybe even therapists. Now, I hope nobody's on the jury that actually has had postpartum psychosis, or they would have been bounced during voir dire, no doubt. But that's the kind of thing, what you're reporting about the New York Times and those women that are standing outside, the jury has to be very careful. That's why there's safety in numbers. Somebody is going to bring it up if one of the jurors goes off and starts talking about testimony, quote unquote, that didn't come out of the courtroom.
A great point. All right, Wendy, we're going to have to leave it there. We had a lot of other topics we're going to talk about today, but we appreciate your great insight into all of this. It's a fascinating story. Wendy Patrick, you can see her writings on Newsmax. And Wendy, we love having you on the show every Monday.
You got it. I'll see you next Monday. Thank you, Todd.
All right. The great Wendy Patrick, everybody. It's interesting. Even some conservative Christians are conflicted about this. Allie Beth Stuckey did an interview with the New York Times. She said that she felt immediate disgust and anger, but also a recognition of how dark and out of control for some women postpartum can be. Ladies and gentlemen, where do you stand on all of this? It seems to me, again, we're trying to glorify this woman as if she is some sort of a poster child for the postpartum movement or something. It's the most bizarre thing I've seen. 901-260-5926. That's 901-260-5926 In my opinion, she killed her kids. She deserves the death penalty. We'll be right back. All right, ToddStarnes.com, ladies and gentlemen, our website. What do you think ought to happen here to this woman, Lindsay Clancy, killing her 3 children? Certainly, the sympathy of the nation seems to be with the monster mom. 901-260-5926. Let's go to Selmer, Tennessee. Danny listening to us on KWAM today. Hi, Danny. What's on your mind?
Hey, good afternoon, sir. I can't decide, I don't know the details with this Miss Clancy lady, but I did know someone very close to the family, and that I knew a lady that went through postpartum psychosis. It was not just a depression; it was full-blown psychosis, and it is a real thing. It's actually kind of scary. She was, I know it's a mental illness, and when you use your brain to think, and your brain's not thinking correctly, you don't know how to properly get help and get care, who to trust, whatever. As a paranoia, she was incredibly worried about just everything, including the kids. She came up with, I knew her mom and her dad and her whole family. She was saying that wasn't her real family, that her real mom was actually in Florida, that had a name for her and all this stuff, which was all untrue. She dyed her hair jet black, saying that's her original actual color. She's trying to dye the kids' hair black because she said that's what their natural color is. It was just really bizarre behavior. Now, eventually the kids were removed from her, which drove her further into this psychosis. She never did get any help, and unfortunately it went really bad, and she developed a real bad alcohol problem, got around some wrong people, and was eventually murdered by being around those wrong people.
Oh,
The kids were okay, but they lost their mom. But it is really bizarre, scary behavior to see someone with going through a prolonged psychotic episode.
It's a very rare. It is a extremely rare thing. You're looking at 1 out of every 1,000 women go through something like this. So it's like 0.1%. So it's a very, very rare thing that happens.
It is, and the postpartum depression, the baby blues, that stuff, that's pretty common. But the actual psychosis, but it is a real thing because some people, question, well, does that really happen? Everybody, when a woman gives birth,
but the key here is the person you're talking about. She did not murder her children, right? So and again, this is the distinction. Lindsay Clancy admits to murdering her children. I don't even know why we're having a trial here. I really don't. Danny, thank you for the call. 901-260-5926 is our number. That's 901-260-5926. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. It's the Todd Stearns Radio Show. ToddStearns.com is our website. Be sure to check out our latest up-to-the-minute news and information there. I want to play some audio. This is coming from South Carolina. Voters going to the polls tomorrow, and they will decide who will be representing them as a Republican in the Senate race there. You've got Darlene Graham, the sister of the late Senator Lindsey Graham, going up against our good friend Ralph Norman, a longtime conservative member of Congress, also a member of the House Freedom Caucus. Now, we've been trying to tell you something has been off about Darlene Graham. We have some new information where she once testified that she was in support of diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, and that she wanted to advocate for those policies. Take a listen to Cut 4, please.
I oppose DEI. I oppose the woke agenda. We're working on all new policies and procedures, putting internal controls in place. We got a diversity inclusion committee. I want to be a leader in state agency when it comes to that.
All right, there you have it. Darlene Graham on the campaign trail saying she opposed DEI policies, but in 2021, she was actually boasting about forcing those policies on a state agency that she ran. And by the way, she delivered that testimony wearing a face diaper. So again, that gives you some idea about Darlene Graham. Of course, she says she knows nothing about national security issues. And she also got upset because a citizen was filming her at a campaign event. I want to go right away to our Patriot Mobile Newsmaker line. Two good buddies of mine, Harry Hurley from WPG Radio in Atlantic City, and Steve Gill, publisher of TristarDaily.com in Nashville. Guys, good to have you with us. Harry, to you first, what is your take here on Darlene Graham? I mean, she's got the endorsement of Donald Trump, but just about every conservative out there is saying, whoa, Nelly.
Without the president's support, we wouldn't be talking. This would not be a topic. She may have had a Governor Gary Johnson moment. Remember Aleppo? What is Aleppo? And he was done. If South Carolina processes the issue of Taiwan and national security and not my thing as disqualifying, then Congressman Norman is going to pull this thing out. I think the president's endorsement is extremely powerful. It may be enough. Without that, if the president were neutral, I'm not even saying he would have had to endorse Congressman Norman. If the president had not gotten involved, I think Norman would have it in the bag. I think that Senator Darlene Graham may pull this out, but purely because of President Trump.
Steve, I want to get your take on this because we saw in Tennessee, for example, the president's endorsement did not work for sitting Congressman Andy Ogles, who went down in defeat in his Republican primary for his congressional seat. How do you see this playing out in South Carolina, and what do you make of the president endorsing someone who is, I hate to say this, clearly not a conservative?
Yeah, I don't know if we should call her DEI Darlene or disaster Darlene, because the longer she talks, the longer the campaign goes, the worse it gets. And if this race had another week for the disclosures about who she really is and where she really stands or fails to stand on the critical issues, she's somebody who basically doesn't have any knowledge of where she stands on abortion from the moment of conception, even though she's been endorsed by right to life groups. And Harry's exactly right. If it wasn't for the Trump endorsement, this woman would not even be being discussed as a viable Senate candidate. That endorsement carries a lot of weight. But President Trump has lost a series of races where he is endorsed. The Mike Lindell race, he lost in the governor's race in Wyoming. He lost in several Florida races recently. So his endorsement is strong. But in South Carolina, he also endorsed the lieutenant governor. And she got, she won the primary and then got obliterated in the runoff. So his endorsement carries weight. But I think if the voters in South Carolina look at where this woman actually stands or fails to stand, she's someone who didn't vote for her own brother in the primary a few months ago. And until President Trump endorsed her, there is no record in any social media at any time of her saying anything the least bit positive about President Trump. She is a complete fiction. And hopefully in the next 24 hours, South Carolina voters figure it out.
You know, guys, I was just in Texas speaking yesterday at a book event in Dallas, and was speaking to a lot of some very high profile conservatives, and I was stunned by what they told me about the Senate race. There is actually concern in Texas that Kim Paxton may not actually win this race against James Tallarico. Harry, what's going on here? I mean, are the Republican voters depressed about all this stuff? I just don't get what's going on here.
I still don't think it's scare time yet. Remember that Ted Cruz was going to lose to Beto O'Rourke. Ken Paxton is one of those guys that always underpolls but overperforms. He's going to pull it out. It'll be quasi close, and so was Ted Cruz the last time he ran. I just can't see Texas going for Tallarico. I just don't see it. I think Republicans will come home. There's some concern and disappointment about Cornyn, but Paxton will pull it out.
Steve, again, looking at some of these races, the Tennessee 9th congressional race, I was concerned about how many Democrats turned out in their primary here. Certainly, the Republicans had the edge. The question is, will they have the edge if they don't show up and vote? And are we gonna have some surprises come November?
Yeah, your opinion matters, but actually turning up and voting matters more. And I think if Republicans sit on their hands, or as we've talked, stay in the pews rather than get to the polls, we need our church leadership to be encouraging people to pray and discern and to vote. Because the black churches are certainly doing that in the 9th district you mentioned in Memphis. And if the white pastors across the South and across the country don't have to tell people, go vote for this person, but look at the policies, look at the issues. And if people are not registering their vote at the ballot box, their opinions don't matter.
Guys, I just don't get it. I've been asking candidates this, and nobody can answer this question on the Republican side. What exactly are you guys running for? What's the big issue out there? Harry, these candidates are having a hard time explaining that, other than we're going to be stopping the socialist surge. Is that enough to get people out on Election Day?
Here's the problem. Right now, Democrat generic model +7. That usually means you lose. They win. What I am comforted by is that right now, Republicans appear to be within about 6 seats of keeping the House, with 18 too close to call races. I would think they would pull out 6 of those. But I'll tell you where I'm concerned. I watched not long ago Mikey Sherrill beat the Republican nominee, Jack Ciattarelli, who 4 years before that almost beat the sitting governor. And Mikey Sherrill won by 550,000 votes. Democrats are motivated to vote. They hate Trump. We are not communicating well. The answer to your question is voters want the answer to the question of affordability. And Republicans are doing a terrible job. You can't say things like capitalism and buzzwords. You got to show them, how's the price of a gallon of gasoline not going to be over $4? How is food going to come down in cost? Republicans have a much better story, but they're not good storytellers.
Steve, do you agree with that assessment? Disagree?
Yeah, Harry's exactly right. And I think we're seeing now about 16 to 18 million barrels of oil a day flowing through the Straits of Hormuz. That should start to bring down the price of gasoline. And the price of gasoline affects the price of everything. The groceries at the grocery store, they don't get there, magically. They don't get dropped off by drones. They're driven there by diesel and gasoline fueled trucks. The cattle that are harvested and taken to butcher shops, they have to get there by transportation. So gas affects everything, from pricing, from our attitudes. There is a big sign on every corner in America telling you to the penny exactly what gas cost. When those numbers come down, people will feel better about everything. And I think that's why that has to be imperative. But it isn't enough, as Harry mentioned, just to be against. We've got to talk about what we're for. The Democrats are against Trump. They're against everything Trump means and everything Trump stands for. That's not going to be good enough to run and win an election unless we fall short of explaining to people why what Trump is for is for America, has benefited America, and will continue to benefit our country from state house, state senate, congressional, and senate races.
Yeah, Harry, jump in there.
Steve Gill is awesome. He's exactly right. The price of a gallon of gasoline for all of our lifetime and before, if you know what the price of a gallon of gasoline is 30 days before the election, you know who's going to win the election. This is why we have to hope and pray, and I know hope is not a strategy, that Operation Economic Outcast is successful. We have to crush Iran as fast as possible, showing the American people that it's not a quagmire, because remember, it was going to be days, then it went weeks, and then it went months. We've got to get that at least under control so that the American people can have confidence in Republicans to stay in the majority. Otherwise, President Trump gets impeached right away. That will be pre-filed. It will be investigations of all Trump family members, all Trump allies. It will be an absolute disaster. Steve Gill is right. He just did a master class on your show.
I will say this, guys, looking at the price of, and as much as we're talking about gasoline, the price of hamburger in America, it's off the charts here. $6.89 a pound in the last numbers coming out in July, which is up considerably from when the president took office. And of course, the answer to that is to bring in all this cheap, intentionally cheap foreign beef, which has just about set off all the cattle ranchers across America. And again, there are a lot of factors that go into the cost of that beef, but the cattle ranchers are saying this is not the answer. I guess, guys, my concern is we're pissing off these groups, and if enough of them get ticked off on election day, we're just going to have problems. So I think, again, communication, they've got to do a better job of that coming out of the White House. And the RNC has to get on messaging. I know they're doing the big convention in Dallas.
Yeah.
I hope maybe that'll kind of focus everybody on what the big issues are. Steve Gill, what say you?
Well, there are great reasons, not great reasons for cattle farmers, but there are great reasons why beef prices are high. We've had serious droughts. We've had the Biden administration push the destruction of our cattle herds to the lowest level in decades. The ranchers understand that, and they understand that it takes 2 or 3 years to rebuild a herd after the destruction that the Biden administration did. The problem is, if you're explaining 60 days before an election, you're losing.
You're losing.
And I think what the Trump administration has to do is quit over-promising and under-delivering. We promised no tax on tips. It ended up being no tax on some tips.
Right.
No tax on Social Security. Well, up to a certain level. The promises that were made have not been kept. And we need to get the House and the Senate to finish the rest of the promises that President Trump made on those issues right now.
Yeah, and Harry, to that point, again, the argument was we're going to crack down on guys and girls sports. Any school that doesn't follow the president's executive order, we're going to defund them. Nobody's been defunded. The whole Save America Act, you can't have Republicans going out there and running on that. And what are they going to tell voters? All right, give us control again, and we're really going to get to it this go around. I think the problem is the Do Nothing Congress really can't campaign on anything because aside from the big beautiful bill, they haven't done that much.
And Todd and Steve, how about this? The Democratic National Committee has a negative net worth.
Yeah.
The Republicans are worth hundreds of millions to spend in this cycle. President Trump has more hundreds of millions of dollars. We should crush them on November 3rd, but I don't know that we're going to.
If all of that goes into the pockets of the consultants rather than in good messaging, Republicans will lose. And the consultants are like pigs feeding at the trough. They're going to consume every dollar of that because they don't care if we lose as long as they stuff millions into their pockets.
Steve, I want to throw out a conspiracy theory here, guys, so you can yell at me on air if you disagree with this. But here's my concern. We have seen the majority leader stand up to President Trump. Save America Act is not going to happen. The filibuster is not getting nuked. This is the only president in modern American history who has not been allowed by a majority Republican Congress to make recess appointments. That's on the record. I'm just wondering here, is it possible the Republican leadership, that has opposed Trump from day one, even quietly in the shadows, is it possible that they could be willing to throw this election, give the Democrats control, so the Democrats would be blamed for stopping the Trump agenda, as opposed to the Republicans in charge not following through on the agenda?
I'm going to take the first crack at that. That's Machiavellian, but it is possibly true because I think that John Thune has been a great disappointment. They say, oh, we can't do it. We don't have the votes. Do it. The Democrats are going to show you that you don't need 60 votes to do it. They're going to do it the first day they get the chance to do that. If we are to believe, and it's not implausible, that this is a game where sometimes the majority party likes to lose because it's easier to be in the majority, carping on the outside looking in and complaining about everything that's going on, and then winning the next time out. Yeah, that's no joke what you just said, Todd.
Steve Gill, final thought.
President Trump needs to take the gloves off. And I don't think many people usually have to tell Trump to take the gloves off. Every one of these senators that claims to be a conservative that gavels in Congress for a few minutes to stop Trump's appointments needs to be called out by name. President Trump needs to fly into their state, call them out by name in that state, make them pay the price immediately for continuing to block his agenda. Call out Thune by name. Call out the rest of these, lackeys, many of whom are just bent out of shape like Cornyn because they got beat and they're going to stick it to America on their way out. Call them out by name, go into their state, ruin their futures.
All right, guys, we're going to have to leave. We got to pay some bills here. You know how this goes. Appreciate all of your great analysis, guys. Thanks for playing along with the conspiracy. Harry Hurley, Steve Gill, guys, good to see you.
Great to be with
Thanks,
you, Todd and
guys.
Steve.
All right, folks, got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right. Want to thank Caleb Park. Caleb Park, you hear him every Friday sharing good news. He's an award-winning journalist and podcaster, social media influencer. Caleb endorsing the Golden Age and posted a really big video about it over the weekend, and we're so grateful for that. Here's what Caleb had to say. A masterful storyteller. That's me, Dylan, by the way. That's what he said about me. A masterful storyteller combining humor, truth, and great American lessons that everyone can enjoy. I highly recommend. You know what we should have done? We should have partnered with like Buc-ee's or something, just buy a book, get some beaver nuggets.
You might have to have the beaver on the book, though.
Oh, the golden beaver.
Yeah. Let's go.
Might sell more books. I don't know. So get yourself a copy of The Golden Age. How Trump Saved America. You're going to love this book, folks. You're going to love it. All right, hang tight. Hour 3 of the big show. Coming up, we're going to be talking to Zach Smith from the Heritage Foundation. Big news about crime in the U.S. of A. I can't wait to hear that news. Yes, this is the Todd Starnes Radio Show. Howdy, everybody. Great to have you with us today. Hour 3 of the big show. By the way, ToddStarnes.com is our landing page. So if you want to download our podcast, if you want to download our free app that provides you 24 hours of conservative talk radio, if you want to get our free newsletter, all these things, by the way, are free of charge. All you have to do is go to ToddStarnes.com and we will get that information to you. Our telephone number, if you would like to call in, 901-260-5926. That's 901-260-5926. By the way, I would urge you to go to our X account, at Todd Starnes. We just posted a wild video, and that's all I'm going to tell you. It is a wild video, so go check it out, ToddStarnes.com. Well, we have seen a lot of headlines about crime in the United States. I live in Memphis, Tennessee. We broadcast our national program from a fortified bunker here in the Bluff City because of the insane crime. Now, it was has it been almost a year ago? The president was on the show, and I told him about how bad things were here in Memphis. He said he would take a look at it, and if things really were that bad, he was going to send in the National Guard, which the president, in fact, did. And as a result of the president's efforts, crime in Memphis, Tennessee, down 40%. But again, there are a lot of Democrats out there suggesting that the president's efforts to crack down on crime are not working. So what is the truth of the matter? Well, I want to bring in Zach Smith, who is a senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Zach, great to have you with us today.
Well, great to be on the show, Todd. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, let's just get right to it. Are we in fact seeing a decline in violent crime and murder here in the United States?
Yes, absolutely. Look, the FBI released very encouraging crime statistics recently showing record drops in many categories of violent crime, or at least drops we haven't seen for many, many years. And I think the key to getting those successful numbers, not only nationally, but more importantly in local places like Memphis, like Washington, D.C., that were experiencing decade-high crime rates before, is we know what works to drive down violent crime. Put police officers on the streets, empower them to do their jobs responsibly and efficiently, and then have prosecutors who are willing to prosecute repeat violent offenders. Wherever those tried and true tactics have worked, we've seen crime rates come down, and that's exactly what President Trump and his team have prioritized with such great success.
You know, Zach, I think back to the days that Rudy Giuliani was elected mayor of New York City. Of course, he had been the incredibly successful U.S. attorney, did the crackdown on organized crime in the Big Apple. And as a result of his efforts, sort of the broken window policies, we saw a massive drop in crime in New York City. Do you think that's pretty much what President Trump has implemented nationwide here?
Yes, absolutely. That's that broken windows theory of policing that Rudy Giuliani, along with Bill Bratton, pioneered in New York City. You basically enforce the small crimes to stop them from becoming big crimes. And I think the perfect example of this is in Washington, D.C. Obviously, President Trump and his legal team, they got a lot of grief for deploying the National Guard there, for putting in place a U.S. attorney, a prosecutor, Janine Pirro, who pledged to prosecute criminals. But the results speak for themselves. You mentioned the Memphis crime statistics, Todd. Look at what's happened in Washington, D.C. At the end of 2025, the murders in Washington, D.C. had fallen by over 30%. If you look at the murders in Washington, D.C. So far this year in 2026, they've fallen by another 30% compared to this same time last year. And so again, I think it goes to show wherever these tried and true tactics have been used, decreases in violent crime in particular follows.
We're so happy to have Zach Smith with us. He's a senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Zach, has there ever been a time in American history where we have seen such a dramatic drop in violent crime and murders?
Well, it's been a long time, and part of the reason it's been such a long time is because it had been a long time since we saw such a drastic spike in terms of violent crimes and murders. In 2020, 21, 22, 23, during the Biden administration, we were seeing record highs in the number of murders and violent crimes committed in too many cities around the country. And that's in large part because we were reaping the consequences of defund the police policies, We were reaping the consequences of having rogue, radical prosecutors in office who were refusing to prosecute entire categories of crimes. And I think what we saw is even many Democrats recognize that these policies weren't working. Look at what happened in San Francisco. They recalled and removed from office Chesa Boudin, a radical progressive prosecutor who had implemented many of those problematic policies. In Los Angeles, George Gascon was kicked out of office by the voters when he ran for reelection. And so you're seeing consistently, not everywhere, but even in many deep blue cities, voters choosing law and order over disorder and chaos.
It just seems to me, and again, I don't, I know who the Democrats are, and I know they seem to embrace this criminal element. But again, it seems to me that, for example, in Memphis, the majority of crime victims here are, in fact, black citizens. Many of them, I would say an overwhelming number, vote Democrat. You would think that Democrat leaders would want to protect their base of voters by cracking down on the criminal thugs. And I'm just wondering, why is it that they are so hesitant to do that?
Well, I think it's unpopular with the most radical elements of their base, unfortunately. And you're exactly right, Todd. Most shooting victims, most murder victims today are young black men. And so the individuals, these soft on crime policies were designed to help, actually end up being victimized the most by these policies. But in too many circles on the left, the idea that we should fund the police, that we should hire more police, that we should prosecute repeat violent offenders, for some reason, sadly, that has become a very controversial stance
Wow.
in those circles.
All right, Zach, we're going to have to leave it there. But great analysis here, and it's a great story that needs to be told. That we are watching violent crime and murder, historic declines under the Trump administration, and this is great news. Heritage.org, ladies and gentlemen, is the website. Heritage.org. Zach, good to have you on the show. We're definitely going to get you back soon. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Great talking with you.
All right. And I would just ask, I know we have a lot of Memphis listeners. Are you guys glad that President Trump sent in the National Guard? By the way, there are reports National Guard may be packing up and heading out as a result of the massive drop in crime. But have you guys noticed an overall difference in the city since President Trump sent in the National Guard? Our telephone number is 901-260-5926. That's 901-260-5926. Want to work in a couple of calls here before we go to break. Let's go to George, listening to us on WYWO, our great affiliate in Warren, Ohio. George, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Todd. You're talking about the Democrats possibly coming back into power and taking over the House and Senate. And I'm especially worried because I'm Jewish. And I have to worry about my family and my Jewish friends. If the Democrats come back into power, totally, even the presidency in 2028, I believe that the Jewish people will be beaten and murdered in the streets of our cities with impunity. That's how bad it will be. These people are downright evil. They're insane. They have a special hatred for Jews. They're psychopathic Jew haters. Of course, they also hate America. They hate Christianity. They hate Western civilization. But these are very, very dangerous people.
George, I can look, and I know this is not hyperbole to you. I can hear it. I can hear the emotion in your voice, and I've said for a long time on this show that these people, the Democrats, they hate the Jews and they hate the Christians. And I know this is going to be controversial, but I think they also hate the gays. And if, God forbid, you let these radicals take charge, you're going to see them coming after all of us. And so that's why I think we have to have strategic coalitions to stand together against what I consider to be a clear and present danger to the country. Let me give you an example. Hassan Piker, who is a major player in the Democrat Party right now, over the weekend was at a conference in Georgia. They were actually singing a praise and worship song that celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I mean, this is the kind of evil we're talking about here.
I know. I heard about that. I heard that. But these people, especially with their Muslim, cohorts, that's a very, very evil coalition. I call it an unholy alliance. And the American people, unfortunately, this is what bothers me: a large segment of the American electorate have been brainwashed and indoctrinated in their schools and by the media, and I don't know if they're capable of thinking for themselves anymore.
I'm afraid you're look. I'm afraid you're right. I wrote about this in the Golden Age that we really have a massive education problem in this country. First of all, you've got these classrooms that have been turned into these radical indoctrination centers, and they're advancing this. I call it political Islam and radical socialism. They've got the critical race theory stuff going on, the sex and gender stuff. I mean, they are coming at our kids from a number of different vantage points. And until we get control of those local schools, we're going to have problems. Now, George, are you listening to us in Pennsylvania?
Yes, I'm right near the Ohio line. I'm
Okay.
about 15 miles away from Warren, Ohio.
So the reason the reason I asked that question is I'm curious how things are going for the Republicans in Ohio, because I've heard that Vivek Ramaswamy is really struggling right now out on the campaign trail.
That's what I heard too. But I live in Mercer County, Pennsylvania, and that is Trump country. This part of Pennsylvania is definitely Trump country, and I think Trumbull County, Ohio. That's where Warren is. That's where your program is being broadcast from there. That's also Trump country. So this is basically Trump territory.
George, here's what I want to do. By the way, do you have a copy of the Golden Age yet?
No, I don't.
George, we're going to take care of that for you. So don't hang up because I want to send you a copy of the Golden Age, How Trump Saved America. Is that okay?
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Your only job, George, is to tell your friends to start listening to the show and get them to call in because we would love to hear from all of our friends in Trump country there in Pennsylvania.
I do that already.
All right, George, God bless you. Well, look, hang tight. And, guys, we're going to get George a signed copy of the Golden Age, How Trump Saved America. I think George is our first caller from WYWO. So we look forward to hearing from more of our great friends out there in Pennsylvania and Ohio. All right, we've got to take a quick break. When we come back, your calls, 901-260-5926. What do you think about my theory here that the Republicans may be trying to throw the midterm elections so they can't be blamed for the Democrats going after President Trump? What do you think about that? We'll be right back. Well, a little bit of breaking news coming from the NFL. Dylan, the owner of the San Francisco 49ers, did you hear about this? Got arrested.
Oh, yeah. Big news.
I mean, this is huge. It happened in East Palestine, Ohio. Isn't that where they had the big train derailment? Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Biden never visited. Clearly, Jed York should not have visited. So I'm fascinated by this. San Francisco 49ers principal owner and CEO, Jed York, was arrested yesterday, in East Palestine, Ohio. He was originally detained on suspicion of engaging in prostitution. Uh-oh. I'm sorry, but why would he be in East? Why would he? Oh, here's where it gets interesting. It's where he was arrested, I think, is the story.
Oh, no.
He was arrested at the Wheat Hill mobile home community.
Uh-oh.
So he got arrested at a trailer park.
So he was prostituting himself?
No. I think that he was going there to be prostituted. Yes. He was to be pleasured.
Got it.
If you
understand. Wait, you can be arrested for that?
Yes, it's against the law to have sex with pay somebody for sex. Yes, that's
got it. I knew that.
Oh my Lord!
Wow, tough day for him.
Yeah. So look, help me understand this. The guy is worth $500 million, and again, we believe all of that behavior is a sin. You should wait until you get married. But for the sake of our conversation here, if you're going to go out and hire a hooker, why would you go to a trailer park in East Palestine, Ohio?
Yeah.
I mean, you're worth $500 million, right? It seems to me, unless, some of these very wealthy people, millionaires, they're thrifty, right? They don't like to spend a lot of money.
The trailer park is the thrift shop for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't say it fully.
Well, it's not exactly.
You would think, right? You would think that there would be better quality out there if he's the owner of the 49ers.
Jeez, I mean, it would be sort of like going to, well, not the Piggly Wiggly, but, like an off-brand grocery store, right?
Sure.
Where you don't have the brand
names. Not a Kroger, not a Publix.
Right, exactly.
This is like a family-owned. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, according to ESPN, he pleaded no contest to misdemeanor charges. And according to the records, the charge was amended to misdemeanor disorderly conduct after he pleaded no contest to that, and an additional misdemeanor charge for possessing criminal tools. The circumstances remain unclear, but the police report was obtained by ESPN, and it notes that Mr. York was arrested at 9:35 a.m. Sunday morning at the Wheat Hill mobile home community on the south end of town. The police report narrative consists of a single sentence indicating that officers assisted the Human Trafficking Task Force in his arrest. He agreed to pay a fine of $1,150. That's $1,000 for the criminal tools charge, $150 for the disorderly conduct charge. He was also sentenced to 1 day in jail for each charge, with 1 day already considered to be served. The NFL putting out a statement saying the league is aware of the matter and they're going to review their personal conduct policy. It's been my observation with the NFL that kind of stuff is like normal behavior to them. I mean, the executives. The county prosecutor said that he could not offer any additional details about the case beyond confirming that his charges were reduced. York has been the majority owner of the Niners since 2024. He was originally from Youngstown, Ohio. So maybe that's why, maybe East Palestine is near Youngstown, and maybe that's why he decided to go over to the trailer park. But to me, that's the biggest part of the story. Why is the owner of an NFL team going, I don't know. Was he looking for a discount?
Maybe times are tough over there at the 49ers.
Times are tough.
They'll win some more games.
You see, again, if he had been going to church where he should have been at 9:30 on a Sunday morning, none of this would have happened. I'm just saying. All right, got to take a break. 901-260-5926. This is the Todd Stern Show. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the Todd Stearns radio show. ToddStearns.com is our landing page. Go and check that out. I want to play some audio here. This is from the Los Angeles City Council. You know, they call them unhoused now. I say we call them homeless, but because that's what they are. And by the way, look, I get it. There are some people who are homeless for whatever reason, and that's what they want to be. That's what they want to be. But most of these people either belong in a jail or a hospital. So anyway, the Los Angeles City Council has gone out of their way to provide aid and comfort to the homeless by basically advocating for them and allowing them to basically set up their little homeless shelters on these sidewalks. I mean, they're enabling the homeless people. So now, and we've got to find out who this person is, because I need to know if this guy was being facetious or if he was actually being real, because a citizen showed up at the council meeting and proposed that if they're going to go down this path of providing everything for the homeless, that they should at least provide a taxpayer-funded brothel for the homeless. Take a listen.
Consider a pilot program for free hygienic sexual relief clinics, primarily serving the homeless and unhoused. This means equality. It means private sexual relief through masturbation or, where appropriate and consensual, with a partner, all funded by public tax dollars and managed with professional oversight. It's about allowing the homeless to have the same comforts and privacy that we have today.
Well, there you go. I mean, if you're going to go down, the thing is, it's not that big of a stretch here. So I get these messages. You're not going to believe what the L.A. City Council was trying. No, the L.A. Council was not trying to do this, but some guy was actually suggesting they might consider, and you just never know. You never know. Former Vice President Mike Pence. There's really no good segue here, so my apologies. Former Vice President Mike Pence is in the headlines. So I'm really conflicted about Mike Pence, and the reason why is I like the guy, but he's not a very nice guy. And there's a story out involving a former CIA briefer who happened to be transgender, a man who goes by the name Julia Curley. And Curley served as Mike Pence's daily intelligence briefer. And Curley says that Mike Pence treated him with dignity despite his long record opposing LGBTQ rights. And this is all in an article that was written, and it's making a lot of headlines around the nation's capital. So anyway, Mike Pence was on CNN, and the reporterette brought up this particular story with the vice president, who is supposed to be a very conservative evangelical Christian. Take a listen.
Quickly, before I let you go, I do want to ask about comments by Julia Curley, former CIA officer who served as your daily briefer during the first Trump term. She's a trans woman. I spoke to her earlier this week, and she said, despite your different views, you treated her with, quote, great dignity. And a big moment for her in her life was you telling her mother that you must be very proud of your daughter. What was your reaction to hearing her say that?
You know, I haven't read the article. I appreciate the kind words, but you know, you and I have known each other a long time, Dan. And my conservative values are fairly well known, but maybe some people didn't quite know that among our Christian values is my wife and I believe in treating others the way that we'd like to be treated, with decency and respect. And I was heartened to hear Julia reflect that that was the experience that took place in our office.
All right. So there you have it. What was going on there with the church bells? Ding-a-ling. No, the church bells, not Mike Pence. That's what they were doing. The ding, anyway. Or ding-dong, if you will. Again, the bells, not Mike Pence. So look, what was going on here with Mike Pence? And this is, I think, the bigger issue with him, the former vice president. So he's practicing what one well-known pastor called pronoun hospitality. And the theory in the evangelical Christian world is that you should humor the transgender community by engaging in their fantasy world. So if you have transgender people that come into your church, that you should refer to them by their preferred pronouns and their preferred names. Now, here's where I stand on this. I think that's a load of hooey. And again, if somebody comes in and says, okay, well, my name was Jim, but now I go by Julie. All right, I'll call him Julie if that's their name. But I'm not going to engage in this ridiculous pronoun hospitality that Mike Pence is engaging in. And Mike Pence, and this is the rub that evangelicals have with Mike Pence, is that Mike Pence is a squish. So back when he was governor of Indiana, Mike Pence backtracked on a religious freedom measure in his own state. And this really angered a lot of evangelicals. And the reason why he backtracked is because he came under fire from the LGBTQIA plus community. Oh, wait a second. What was it? The log cabin Republicans, they're just the LGs and the Bs now. Everybody else, you're on your own. Anyway, this was in 2015, and Pence signed a Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which would have protected Christians from these radical gay rights groups, among other things. But that was the main point of it all. That was the gist of it all. But then he backpedaled on language that he feared could be discriminatory against gay people. And so, therefore, Indiana, they did not get their Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And it was the evangelical Christian vice or governor who did them in. He betrayed them. Unbelievable. At the time, there was a South Carolina pastor, Mike Gonzalez, who actually led evangelical outreach for Ted Cruz. And he said the reason why conservatives are not going to be moved much by Mike Pence as vice president is when he had an opportunity to stand up for religious liberty, to mark himself in history, he did not do that. I'd never thought that of Mike, but when it came down to it, he crumbled under pressure. That, for many evangelical conservatives, has been something that is a red flag. So anyway, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. Do you take issue with the fact that Mike Pence now engages in pronoun hospitality and embraces the transgender movement? 901-260-5926. That's 901-260-5926. I mean, that was one of my concerns when President Trump picked Mike Pence. I was wondering, is that a thumb in the nose? At the time, I'm wondering, is he trying to make a statement here? Because Mike Pence had just thrown Christians under the bus, and then he gets picked up and becomes Donald Trump's VP. And at that moment, I was concerned because that proved to me that Mike Pence is not a man of strong character. A man of strong character would stand by his beliefs no matter what. And I warned folks at the time, you got to watch this guy because he's going to turn his back on Donald Trump. And what happened, ladies and gentlemen, the first opportunity when Mike Pence his fat was about to be thrown into the fire, he bolted on Donald Trump. We all remember what happened on J6. We all remember. So anyway, I'm just saying, ladies and gentlemen, you can't trust people like Mike Pence. And there are a lot of folks like him in the Republican Party, which, again, I am beginning to wonder, with hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank, the Republicans aren't spending any of that money, and they're out there stopping President Trump's agenda. Is it possible that the Republicans could be getting ready to throw the midterm elections, at least in the Senate? Just something to think about. All right, we've got to take a break here. 901-260-5926. That's our telephone number. That's 901-260-5926. By the way, if you missed any of our interviews today, including early on, we had Doug Turpin on. He's the parent suing the Charlotte, North Carolina Latin school because they displayed images of Jesus with his throat slit, and they tried to convince his kid that he was gay. If you want to go back and listen to that, download our free podcast. You can find that at toddsterns.com. All right. Welcome back. You folks in North Carolina, what a mess. What a mess. Transgenderism is spreading across all of the state schools, and it's just really appalling. This is from Wake County, North Carolina. where a transgender speaker addressed the school board, and she wants actually, she's pro-trans, and she wants the children of any parent who objects to boys and girls bathrooms to be expelled from schools. Take a listen to cut 3.
The Wake County School Board for protecting teachers and staff by standing up to bigots, anti-education bigots who want women out of education and society. I appreciate it as a Wake County Schools graduate, a parent, and soon grandparent. I won't ask for a round of applause because this is a business meeting. I offer 3 modest proposals to protect my grandchildren from these bigots. They protect your children. 1, offer a homeschooling curriculum for free. It helps keep the bigots away from my grandchildren. It provides opportunity for our frailest students. It lets our adults educate themselves. And by golly, we know they need it tonight. 2, name the bigots. Tell us what they cost in money, time, and stress. 3, protect the students. Keep bigots off our campuses. Relocate the children of bigots if needed. Expel the children of bigots if needed. Or maybe Jonathan Swift's proposal applies to bigots too.
Wow. So if you believe that girls' sports should be played by girls and boys should not be in there, this woman says you need to have your child expelled from the classroom. Ladies and gentlemen, all I can tell you is homeschool your children. If you've got the ability, homeschool your kids. Get them out of this mess. Unbelievable. So then this is in Massachusetts, Old Rochester, Massachusetts. I want you to listen to this father describing how his 9-year-old daughter was harassed by a boy inside the girls' bathroom. Take a listen to cut number 2, please.
This is what happens when a school administration fails our female students. My daughter was sexually harassed by a boy that decided it was okay to push her stall bathroom door in. The school has been silent. They're not responding. I've been forced to file a Title IX on them. And they continue not to answer the community. So I bring awareness this way. Our local school, which is the Rochester Memorial School, has been silent on this, and the people are fed up. We're not going to take it anymore. So these signs have been around town. I have people come in tonight to sign petitions to continue to remove all 5 school committee members and replace them with people who care for us, for our children, and for this community.
Wow. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're dealing with. Guys, the dad's putting up signs in the bathrooms telling boys, don't you be coming in here. Let's go to Youngstown, Ohio. WYWO, our great radio affiliate out there. Pastor Hal joins us. Hi, Pastor Hal. What's on your mind today?
How you doing? You know, one answer to this problem that you got is private Christian schooling. You got to get the kids out of that snake pit, and that's what the public school system has turned into. And the Becca school system, they'll send material right to a parent's house that they'll teach their kids anything, any subject, and actually they can graduate on the Becca school system. And it's so good. It used to put the kids at least 2 grade levels ahead of their counterparts in the public school. Now it even puts them further ahead than that because they're getting dumbed down so bad and made immoral in the public school system. Is incredible. But a lot of people, what they did over in near Cleveland, a pastor was telling me, was that they got 4 or 5 families who wanted to pull their kids out of the public school system and have them go on the Becca system. And so they found out one Christian parent that they depended on, you know, that said they got the time to teach the kids. So they'd meet in a little school place or whatever, and every day they'd teach the kids, right? You know, reading, writing, science, and everything else like that. And this is totally legal in the state of Ohio and in most other states. So instead of keeping your kids in a swamp, and I mean, you know, where it's just completely deadly influences to their lives and everything, pull them out of there, pull them out of the public school, get them on this Becca system. They can look up the number and call Becca and find out all the information.
Pastor Hal, let me ask you, from your position as a minister, do you have parents coming to you and asking for guidance on what to do when it comes to the schools?
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you another person that they can get a lot of good guidance from. The pastor in my church is Pastor Ernie Sanders. He's been a talk show host for about 50 years, and he takes a strong stand against the corruption in the public schools, and has a lot of material and information on it. But the people are just getting fed up, and the thing is, the government seems to be allowing these left-wing perverts have their way instead of going to the people. And this country was founded upon three principles. There was the Old English law, the Bible, and common sense. And when the liberals threw the Bible out the door back in the early '60s, common sense went with it, and we've become like insane. And I don't know what I would do, but if I had a kid in the public school, he wouldn't be there very long. I'd get him out of there before they did damage to him that lasted a lifetime.
Yeah.
And but look up the Becca Christian School system.
Right. Got
and
it.
they'll send them all the information they need to educate their own children.
All right. Pastor Hal from Youngstown, Ohio. Thank you for calling in, Pastor Hal. Good to hear from our Rust Belt listeners today. Well done, guys. Folks, just a reminder, get yourself a copy of The Golden Age, How Trump Saved America. Speaker Mike Johnson saying this: as President Trump leads our nation into its golden age, Todd Stearns has delivered a powerful and timely book that challenges us to be that shining city on a hill. Read and share this with friends and family who believe in America and want to help keep our extraordinary republic. We appreciate the great words there from Speaker Mike Johnson. You can order a copy online by going to Amazon or just check your local Barnes & Noble. Most of the Barnes & Nobles in America have copies of the book, but you might want to call before going out there. All right, tomorrow, another jam-packed day, Election Day in South Carolina. We're going to be working on that story as well. ToddStearns.com. Be sure to check that out. Be good, America.